of doing copyright. But you know what? If they had said, for the exclusive purposes of using the name Woodstock with radio, if they had ever said that, you know what would have happened? Their trademark request would have been turned down. Because, again, you cannot... So this is a backhanded effort in the beginning to enforce something that is unenforceable under copyright law.
It's comparable to the United States of America Corporation copyrighting the word federal. And imagine if they did that.
Or they did the whole Constitution. That's actually what goes on in court. That's the deal.
Federal Reserve Bank,
you know why
Federal Express. I don't think so.
No, you can't say that you can cure cancer because they copyright the word cancer. It's outrageous. Really? Everything boils down to you can go mad in this world.
And even very few people know that every one of our names have been copyrighted. When they put your name in all capital letters on your birth certificate, that name in all capital letters was copyrighted by the Crown Corporation in London, England.
But then doesn't the birth certificate, by the fact that we bear it or have it in our possession, kind of authorize us to use that copyrighted name?
No,
unless you're in the bar.
What's really wild, and I know this from law. If you go into court, this is where the courts trick people. When you go into court, they put your name in all capital letters, right? And then the judge says, like in my case, he would say, Mr. Joseph Barton, come forward. And you come forward, and he says, "Are you state your name for the record?" When you state your name, Joseph, I state my name, Joseph Barton, right? I now am violating a copyright on the Crown Corporation, and since I've opened the case and started the case with fraud, I'm using a name that's not mine.
He's in dishonor.
I'm in dishonor. So from that point on, the judge can consider everything you say as
null and void.
Null and void. It's all lies. You lied from the minute you said your name, so therefore I don't have to pay attention to anything you say. And that's how these judges get away. People wonder why. How come when I argued my points to the judge, none of my points were heard by the judge? And that's because the minute you gave your name in court, you were in dishonor, because your name was copyrighted. You have to go into court and say that all capital name you have isn't me. That all capital name is a fraudulent creation by the government.
The Crown Corporation.
Right. My autograph is Joseph with a large J and then all small letters like you learned to write in school.
Right.
Barton with a large B and all small letters. And I am a flesh and blood man. You know, if you say human being in law, a human being is an animal.
That's it. I'm putting this whole thing to bed right now. Okay? We are renaming the name of the station. Okay? It's going to be Randy Steele Radio. WRSR. Randy Steele Radio. That way, everybody has to refer to me. And then I'm going to get a goddamn cease and desist order. Well, we've already trademarked your name at the Federal Reserve, and as the only commercial station in town, you can't call your radio station Randy Steele Radio. Well, to that.
But you know what? See, what Joe says sounds so bizarre and so extreme, but by the time you've spent $1 gazillion working your way up to the federal court, there's only a few people that come into these great, big, huge courtrooms, and it's shot down for that reason. But if you're on radio and you're taking calls, they would be shamed in the eyes of the community, or like you say, the court of public opinion, if it came down to the public knowing that these final moves are pulled with such low blows. That's why I always feel safest when I'm with the public, when I have open mics, when I have live call-ins. That's another abuse Manhattan Neighborhood Network did to me since 2013. They wouldn't let me go live just for that reason. Well, I mean, there's reasons too, but let me go on.
Go on.
Okay, we're just going to step back and let the two Radio Woodstocks come to some sort of meeting of the minds, and really the only two ones are there is Radio Woodstock and Woodstock Radio, so they're fighting with themselves. We're just going to continue.
You know when you got a little kid and you take the little hand and you start slapping, go, stop slapping yourself, and the kid, and meanwhile the kid is slapping itself because you're making his little hand slap him. That's what that reminds me of.
We're just going to continue to run our station the way we have, he said, like.
Oh yeah, we're going to continue to run our. Frankly, I don't care if Jeremy did that. It was only to help out their station. So if they want to look a gift horse in the mouth, that's fine. But we're just going to run our station the way we have. Yeah, most of the time when people try to tune in and they get nothing.
There is no station.
There is no station.
He admits that, though.
We're going to run our station the way we always have. Broken down and never on the air.
Except when we're keeping it on the air.
And no stream going. We could have people in England listening to this right now. He goes, but in all fairness to Jeremy, he goes, we have a public access channel that doesn't have content all the time, Wilbur said. At one time we ran a weather station and just repeated the weather over and over and over when there was no programming. Another time there was some sort of instrumental music that was being played and pictures being shown. It's really exciting what we could do. WDST, it sounds like Jeremy really wishes he had content on his public access channel. I guess some justification for taking, $150,000 a year. And to say that it's being repaired and the building isn't working, I ran a little stream out of 26 Gramercy Park 7H. Little Rabbit Hole Central kept a stream going for a whole year. So you can be anywhere and keep the stream going. You just have to have the will to do it. That's why I wanted to engage that first caller, Robert, who depicted himself as a hacker. Another time, there was some sort of instrumental music. Okay, so he didn't like that. WDST General Manager Richard Fusco on Friday said station officials have no objection to the use of WIOF for the public access channel, but believe the use of Woodstock 104 will confuse listeners.
Now wait a minute, okay? Again, I've said this before, and I'm just going to quickly say this again. Going all the way back to the beginning of this project, and I don't know when we actually certified Woodstock 104 with the Secretary of State, but going all the way back to the beginning of this, when we got the license, the FCC did not assign us WIOF. We requested them because I stands for 1, O stands for O, and F stands for 4. And what does W stand for? It doesn't stand for weirdo. It stands for Woodstock 104 WIOF. Our post office box is Woodstock 104, P.O. Box 104, Woodstock. We're not supposed to do that anymore? Think of the expenses that it would cost us to get our call letters changed. There's a fee with that. There's a big fee with the post office. There's a big fee with all of the other incidentals.
And all of my editing.
And all of your editing.
It's been going out to 650,000 households in Manhattan for quite a few weeks now, and I was very careful. Like, the way I dealt with it visually was I called it Woodstock 104 FM, so then you don't need the word radio.
Well, yeah, or, we have various slogans that we will pursue in the future, not names, but slogans, and none of those slogans will ever use the term radio. They don't have to, and they won't. That we respect their trademark, but it's like being kicked in the teeth, being told, oh, well, we can be Woodstock, but you can't be Woodstock. That's not very Woodstock.
It's more Bearsville.
Touche! Touche!
Okay, we are not looking in any way, shape, or form to not have her do it or in any way interfere with what WIOF Chief Executive Officer Randy Steele is doing, or in any way want to squelch her project, he said. We're just saying, do whatever you want to do, just don't infringe on our trademark. Information provided by WDST shows the station trademarked the phrases Radio Woodstock in 1994 and Woodstock Radio in 2002. Fusco said station officials are hopeful that a court case can be avoided, and said there are many options for WIOF to identify itself with Woodstock without the use of the town's name in a tagline or slogan.
Let me jump in on that. He even says without the use of the town's name. You know, where does he now have the right to say we claim the town's name, Woodstock?
That's why they don't want to go to court.
I know.
The FCC says we have to state the name of the town.
Right.
You know? Yeah. Even if you say WIOF Woodstock, there's the legal ID. You got to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
She is perfectly able to say, this is hippie radio or tie-dyed radio.
Insult.
Hey, man, we're hippie radio, man. Dig it.
No, but that's.
If you want to see tie-dye, tune in to Channel 23 on public access.
Right now on Channel 23. Moving tie-dye.
No, but that's definitely a put-down. You know, it's like...
Of course it is.
It's like saying you're low class and we're upper class, and you know what I mean? You're the hippie radio.
Yeah, no,
or doesn't that mean that they should have less of a right to the term Woodstock if they're going to then... have the cachet and yet use the cachet itself and other elements of the cachet as a put-down?
Yeah, that's really important.
This was the point of the night, though. This is really the point of the night. Because, and I know they're listening, or if not, somebody's going to make a recording and they'll get it. Okay, I say here at 10:41 in the evening, the quote from Richard Fusco is that there are plenty of ways for her to identify with the town without using the name of the town. That is where they will lose, because that goes against the very tenets of the copyright law and trademark law that you cannot trademark the name of a common. So they said right there, without using the name of the town, that's illegal. That's why they will lose in court. That's why all this is harassment. And that's why I say that as a trademark owner, they unilaterally can make the decision that our name does not and never will infringe on their trademark. They make that. They withdraw their complaint to the town of Woodstock. They send me a letter to that point, and I will meet them anytime, anywhere in a mutual location in Woodstock, any restaurant, and we can talk about our strategies about working together. But I don't cooperate when some bully is holding a sledgehammer over my head
and stalking you. Bully
That's
stalk.
Right. Bully stalk.
Okay. Another thing is there's something going around where they're trying to discredit the whole 60s. They're in the psychedelic movement, those people who appreciate psychedelics, they're talking about the unfortunate baggage of the 60s. And they're going to such an extreme length that they claim the word psychedelic means to manifest the mind, which it definitely does not. In Greek, that means to manifest the soul. Psychedelic, if it meant to manifest the mind, it would be logodelic, and this is really a very deep concept. So they want to tie you in with this sort of mass media hypnosis to say that we don't have a legacy in achieving higher states of consciousness in a respectable way. Okay, so she's perfectly able to say this is hippie radio or tie-dyed radio or whatever name she wants to call it from Woodstock, New York, he said. The geographic location is what she is legally able to use. But associating
That
it
is
as...
what
Now, wait a minute.
They're talking out both sides.
Right, talking out of both sides of his mouth, because he says the geographic location is what she's able to use, but then in the paragraph before, he says without using the name of the town.
Yeah.
That's contradictory. That's a one. They're so full of BS.
Well, that's why-
it's
What are we supposed to do? Give
unbelievable.
coordinates?
They're on the license.
But that's what I'm saying. Even the DMT expert who gets federal funding for, Richard Strassman, he's going along with this, that psychedelic means to manifest the mind. And anybody who knows Greek, it's so basic. How do these great, wonderful intellectuals with all these degrees getting all this federal funding get away with this? It's because people are being dumbed down. But if we can have this thing, this radio station going in callers, like we had wonderful callers, you could start to be autodidactic, self-teaching. Okay, so he goes, the geographic location is what she is legally able to use, but associating it with the name of the entity is an infringement on the trademark. Steele contends WDST management is being predatory in efforts to have the phrase discontinued. When we submitted the paperwork to the state, that was in order to call our radio division Woodstock 104, she said. Now, is this going to boil down to a state versus federal thing?
No.
Is what I'm wondering?
No, because no matter what we've done with the state only gives us the right to do business as. And what that means in order to get it is that New York State, or a division of New York State, conducted an investigation to see if anybody else had Woodstock 104, or if anybody else had a claim on Woodstock 104. When we filed that paperwork, there was a question of purpose of the business and reason for the new name, and we put in that category name of radio station as per license number whatever it was, 104, for purposes of radio broadcasting. So when New York State in Albany took a look at their Department of State, took a look at their database, and they cross-referenced radio station and Woodstock 104, they got no conflict, and it allowed us to do everything from setting up our bank accounts to setting up our other business artifacts, and all of that costs money. And we paid that money because we had the right and still have the right to use Woodstock 104. And because that is our legal name. It's on our state license on the wall. And consequently, we have a right to use that. And they don't have the right on one hand to say that we don't have the right to use the name of the town in our name. There is no copyright law regarding that. One person cannot, they don't have what it is under the copyright and trademark law is that they don't have the right to claim that right for exclusive use of the name of the town. The laws are specifically set up to avoid that, but yet they're trying to pull what is called an end run around, I believe, in football, or going behind your back is another analogy, or slipping through the cracks is another analogy, or simply illegal conduct.
Yeah, right. And wait until you hear our Monday show on that. But, I saw a letter, there was a book of letters to and from Groucho Marx, and there was one that starts off, Dear Brothers.
Right.
And this was to Warner Brothers. You want to explain that?
Warner Brothers had tried to trademark, said that the Marx Brothers couldn't use the name Brothers because Warner Brothers held the trademark. And Groucho Marx sent them a letter, Dear Brothers.
It was a great book. It was a great book.
Oh, that's
Okay, you cannot trademark the name of a town, Steele said. That's restraint of trade. Representatives for both stations are seeking to identify themselves as the small independent voices in a world with radio where broadcasting conglomerates own surrounding broadcast outlets. WIOF operates on 100 watts and only began operations in September, while WDST uses 3,000 watts but is a lone venture. WIOF Director Felicia Kasich said the station's efforts are rooted in bringing town-based information, such as broadcasting town board meetings, to its audience. A very important, thing to do.
The light of day.
Yeah. We're a not-for-profit community radio station whose mission statement is to serve the community, she said. Fusco said he applauds the efforts because Woodstock is known for its activists, but its trademarks are critical to commercial success, which, implies it's subduing that voice. No, that doesn't say that. Against much larger broadcasters. We're an independent station in a market that has two of the biggest radio groups in the country, he said. These are very aggressive, well-financed companies that we compete with out there in the market, and it's tough for us in this environment. We need to make sure that what we're offering our people out there is valuable, not only from a traditional broadcast level, but also for new media and digital. And that's something to keep an eye on. WoodstockTV.org should have first-tier service all over the world. Do you want me to read the comments people made?
Yeah, in a second, but all I would say about that, there was something where you were saying about radio and TV, and that should go over that last line again, because there was something I wanted to say there.
Okay.
In that article.
To pull it up. We're an independent station.
Wait,
we're an independent station that has two of the biggest radio groups in the country. Oh, in the county or the country?
The country.
There's so many typos in this article. It's hard to say. He said, these are very aggressive, well-financed companies that we compete with out there in the market, and it's tough for us in this environment. We need to make sure what we're offering our people out there is valuable, not only from a traditional broadcast level, but also for new media and digital.
All right, well, first off, they can say whatever they want about new media and digital. They could go and get a URL of Woodstock104.com, and it wouldn't be us. I don't even know if I'd challenge it, because I probably should. And the minute that I showed anybody, even our state DBA, and that they had that, it would show that there is some sort of an ill will there. Because that wouldn't be their place. But guess what? As far as I'm personally concerned, I don't care, because we have nothing to do with the digital or new media. And even if we did, and even if we used our name, Woodstock 104, that would have no bearing on them. For putting Woodstock 104 on a on a server like radio.com or any of these other services. Are we going to have this fight every time we go somewhere, a place to distribute our signal? I don't think so, because, again, there is no trademark law that allows you to trademark the name of a town, especially that you're a part of. I mean, if we were located in Hurley, and we called ourselves Woodstock 104, then they might have a claim, because we wouldn't be from Woodstock, but we're from Woodstock. So, that's what we do. Go ahead, Joe.
But they're from Bearsville, and they're calling themselves Woodstock, and arguing with you who are in Woodstock for using the name Woodstock. Actually, they're WDST Bearsville.
This is going to get very deep in the months to come, but shall I read the comments?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it starts off with AVB. Now, why can't we all just get along? Let's all join hands around the hookah and sing Kumbaya. And then Varmint says, don't forget the drum circle. And And then somebody goes, Varmint, he gets a little deeper here. He goes, I consider it pretty infantile for a large, well-established radio station to start a dispute of copyright issues with a small public access station pushing a lousy 100 watts.
Wait a minute, lousy? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Channel 23 isn't even streaming.
He says something funny. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I mean, okay. Somebody shouting out their window would reach more people. Anyone who would mistake one for the other has got to be a pinhead. So as far as a lousy 100 watts, Channel 23 can't even keep its stream going when I did it out of Rabbit Hole Central when I was at 26 Gramercy Park. But then somebody says,
Read mine.
Renaissance Man. I'm coming. Yours was the last, so I'm reading what stimulated yours.
Oh, okay.
Then a guy I'm going to follow, Renaissance Man, because I went into his and I saw other comments that he left on other topics, which I think you'd resonate with too, Randy. But since you don't do the internet, you won't know this. Renaissance Man goes, Richard, isn't that a bit over the top? The listening audience is not stupid enough to confuse Woodstock 104 with Radio Woodstock 100.1 WDST. The town is large enough for more than one station. I like that. Now,
I don't know. I think I'm going to have to get on my black hat, and I'm going to have to get my good gun, and we're going to have us a duel. And the one that's left on Tinker Street at 5 o'clock is going to be the one lone survivor, because this town ain't big enough for the two of us.
Now, one thing I was happy, I left a comment, and I was able to leave it in my mission mark, Paula Gloria. So I left a comment there and put my picture up that I loaded from my computer because I don't want copyright infringement on other third parties, but this is something for the future. So to explain all of that, because I know you don't do digital, but digital is a reality, and where we are reaching people all over the world, particularly the Tom Crawford thing, which we have more to report with on Monday with the evictions of the banks.
Let me jump in on that, because that's a point to be made too. As I said, we don't have an internet site, and we don't really, that's very far down on the list of priorities for us, because our mission is to serve Woodstock. Not even Woodstock in the Hudson Valley. Not even Woodstock uptown and midtown Kingston that we serve, or Ulster, or across the river in Red Hook and Rhinebeck and down to New Paltz and even Gardner. Our mission is to serve Woodstock. Now, if other people can hear us, well, that's great. But we're a small 100-watt radio station in Woodstock. That's where we serve. That's where our entire life is. And for somebody to try to tell us, because they've tried to do what in effect is a sloppy job of over-usurpation of the trademark rules of the United States of America, that we can't use the name of our low-power licensed town, is so presumptuous that I think I have to go in a bathroom and retch.
Okay, so anyway, I was delighted I was able to post in my mission mark Paula Gloria all in little and all put together, and that's what I built up my 5 million hits on YouTube, and that's what I'm fighting with YouTube, because I can't access and make comments in my own mission mark. I'm being,